Welcome everyone to our August Operations Committee meeting. Filippo, if you go to the next slide, we can look at the agenda for today. So we have the first half of it is going to focus on our new membership model, Vulcan Demo Days. We have a new member that we would like to introduce to you all, and they have a little bit that they want to talk about. And then we have the project updates at the end. We'll go through fire to OMOP, SOA, and then Filippo can give general updates on other projects. And then we have a bit saved to talk through with the group on the call about ideas for our roadmap for 27. And then we'll leave some time for question and answer at the end. Next slide. I'll pass it over to Lisa to talk through our new model.
Thanks, Miriam. So we do have a new membership model. When our new steering committee came in, I've been talking to lots of prospect members who want to be part of the Vulcan community. And obviously one of our goals is extending that community so that we've got more people to collaborate and more kind of voices there. However, the one thing that was holding us back were our membership tiers, and what the steering committee have actually approved is a new model where we've got some lower rates, which allow in some of those smaller micro businesses that do have some great ideas and some important technology to share. And we'll hear from one of those members in just a moment who have come in on one of the new rates. But it's important to say, you know, this is our for-profit organisations. So those members who come along and don't pay a fee currently because they are part of a not-for-profit, that doesn't change at all. So the government agencies, not-for-profit and consortia, still completely free of charge. All we've done is opened up for technology vendors and smaller pharma organisations our rates. And we've got a really important one for individual members. There's a lot of individuals, and certainly some individuals on the call I've seen today, that have wanted to join Vulcan, but there's been no way to do so. And we do now have the ability to join at an individual level at the much lower rate of just $500. But hopefully you'll see that, you know, the steering committee have done some great work here in terms of signing off so we can welcome in a wider group of people. The benefits remain the same. So those that take part and come on as a member will get to vote. They're eligible for becoming a steering committee member to help really shape the organisation. There's the opportunity to lead projects. There are networking opportunities and a new benefit, which I will talk about at the moment. You know, we really want to position our members as thought leaders within this area. So hopefully for those of you who aren't current members, I hope this might encourage you to do so. One thing to actually raise is that we do have our membership on a pro-rated basis. So if you were to join today, then you would only pay 50% of the fee. So it's a great opportunity to come along right now, test out membership and see if it works for you. Bev, I saw, had her hand up, so I'll let Bev speak.
Yeah, just quick question. Lisa, I think this is great, having this tiered approach. Is this also in addition to having a membership with HL7? So that's mandatory as well. Okay.
You can be a Vulcan member without being a HL7 member.
Oh, you can? Okay.
You can. Yeah, you don't have to have the HL7 membership in place to be a Vulcan member.
All right, great. Thank you.
Pleasure. Filippo, we can move on to the next slide. So we do have a new benefit for members, and as well as trying to reduce some of the costs to allow smaller organisations in, we're also looking at that benefit package, and we want you to be able to get more out of your membership. So we've got a new benefit here, our member demo days, which gives members the opportunity to do a 15-minute live demo on your technology and why it works for the industry, or a small presentation to talk about your future technology roadmap. We will be introducing those into these monthly operations meeting. So it's a great opportunity to really showcase what you're doing and how you can help the industry. So that's the new member benefits, and we will start delivering those over the next couple of months. We will allow 4 of those in to each session. So yeah, looking forward to delivering some of those. We can move on to the next one. And just to say, if you are interested in doing that, then please get in touch with me. There's also a form on the website so you can sign up to get involved in those. I talked about our new member, and Davita Plan is here at the moment. Davita joined us recently, and we've been looking ways for Palani to become a member, but obviously Davita were one of those smaller organizations that really needed the price looking at, and I'm so pleased that we've been able to have that. Davita and Palani have been involved in our projects up until now, and I'm looking forward to them having a louder voice, particularly around the EPI project. So, Palani, I am now going to hand over to you. Welcome as a new member, and tell us a bit more.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. And, I'm glad to be part of the HL7 membership under the new model. And I appreciate the Vulcan team, helping to come up with this new model. I've been talking to Lisa for some time. I really appreciate it. And glad to be, I don't know if we are as one of the first new member under the new membership model. So thank you very much. So I'll just take 5-10 minutes to just introduce ourselves, what we are and what do we do, and then I'd like to talk about a little bit how we would like to engage with the Vulcan in the EPA area. So Divita, first of all, good morning and afternoon or evening to everyone based on wherever you are. I'm Palani Perumal, CEO of Divita. So Divita is an AI data engineering company building regulatory compliant systems for healthcare and life sciences for more than a decade. We operate across 3 domains: pharma, life sciences, healthcare, and health tech and build advisory. So we were founded in 2014. We are a Microsoft partner based in Redmond, Washington, and with the enterprise-grade capabilities at startup speed, which is our unique value. We built at every node of the healthcare system, namely pharma labeling, AI, and also 600 plus community pharmacies through our Purple platform and large scale data analytics systems for benefit management TPA platform in the US. Next slide, please. Bit about me personally. I'm a technology entrepreneur with 30 years experience building products and platforms spanning Microsoft, healthcare, and founded 2 companies. I founded Pepple, which we scaled to over 600 plus community pharmacies in India. That's a 0 to 1 SaaS platform. And also built Divita into a specialized AI data platform company delivering products and solutions for pharma, pharmacy, and healthcare space. Next, please. Coming into our services and capabilities, primarily spans across, as I said, pharma and healthcare and health tech. On the pharma side, we are specialized in a data modernization in a regulatory compliant manner, analytics, EPI, labeling, and pharma agentic AI. We helped some global manufacturers in this area over the last few years. And the healthcare side, mainly on the interoperability. We are also been a member of the NCPDP, who defines the pharmacy standards for all the e-prescription related claims transactions, and then healthcare analytics and building HIPAA governed API, so AI. On the product side, we bring the unique value prop in terms of having built our own SaaS platform and also built for third-party customers, and mainly in healthcare. So we really understand what it takes to build either it's a platform or a custom solutions in a regulated compliant manner. And all these our services is what's common is the regulatory and the depth of knowledge. Coming to our some of the examples to share what we've done. As I said, in healthcare, we helped in one of the market leader TPA platform in building their complete data integration pipeline and an analytics infrastructure, which produces millions of reports monthly basis spanning compliance, operations, and financial metrics. Their systems processes more than $16 billion of annual healthcare payments in US. And so we've been involved pretty long time in building their infrastructure on the back end and providing a complete scalable analytical system. Pepple, as I mentioned, it's our own SaaS platform launched in India. And it's the end-to-end omni-channel platform spanning pharmacy operations, supply chain, e-commerce, and patient engagement. And we scaled it up to 600 plus community pharmacies, and it's completely built Azure native from the day one. And finally, global pharma, this is the most relevant here in this context. We delivered serialization analytics, GS1 resolver performance dashboards, label compliance reporting, etc., in a very GXP compliant manner. Thank you. Next slide, please. So coming to our HL7 Vulcan API, why we are here and what we intend to bring to this working group. The first and foremost is the real world implementation feedback from our past experience and what we are working on now. We've been working on building an API platform that is being directly to the IG spec. When we hit ambiguities, gaps, or edge cases that only surface during the actual conversions, we want to bring those back to the group and help improve the standards. Second, GXP and validation expertise. We can bring the compliance lens to how the IG handles audit trials, version control, and validation readiness, areas that matter most enormously to pharma manufacturers. Third, finally, fire conformance testing. We use our four-layer EQS extraction quality score framework to test conformance before submission. So we can contribute real conformance data and not just opinions as we travel through this journey. And our solution, what we are looking at is as a multi-market use case coverage. Sorry. So we are building the market agnostic platforms in addition to support the baseline IGs. Next slide, please. So going a little bit few into the actual the API platform. So this platform has 7 different capabilities, starting from a conversion hub, authoring studio, fire quality score, compliance validator, and then EPI renderer, lifecycle manager, and intelligent assistant. It's completely AI-powered agentic system. And 3 things makes it, I think, it's distinct. It's mainly built for EPI. Every capability exists specifically for the EPI lifecycle management in an organization. Either you want to plug into an existing, REM or other platforms, or operate as a SaaS platform. It's built completely flexible. It's agentic AI at every stage: conversion, authoring, validation, and translation. So in terms of the coming to the conversion hub, it's about taking in any existing label format. It's sitting inside your organization in any of these formats like Word, PDF, or most of the EU formats related to QRD, IDMP. And the AA agents parse, segment, and map content to the correct file resource types based on country-specific IG, and generate the fire's quality score that provides a quantifiable way of measuring the quality of the conversion. And finally, the critical more part is the human reviewer is in the loop always at every stage before anything is submitted or approved. Next, please. Coming to the authoring studio and fire quality score. So this is for if you want to author, completely a new document from scratch, you can use it through the platform. It's again AI powered. Every change is tracked and attributable, fully compliant with the regulatory record keeping requirements. The intelligent assistant adds translation across various languages and structured summarization for medical information teams. And fire scores similarly applies here as well. Thank you. Next one. Yeah, so this the scoring measures the extraction quality as the conversion and compliance score, so that it helps someone to really understand how far the document or the fire generated fire meets the complaint. And this is some area it's continuously evolving as we build and more conversions and as the systems lots. Next, please. Finally, it's built as a API first design. So it enables connecting to the pharma systems, source systems on one side, and EPA consumers on the other side, or even back to the whole pharma system, internal pharma systems, so like RIM or for submission platform. So it's all using the standards, industry standards, everything customizable, and it's a multi-tenant capabilities so that either it can be used as a SaaS platform or hosted within your network. Thank you. The final one. So to close, why we, as you see, we been as a member now for HL7 also, we continuously participate in many industry standards, bringing that knowledge and real world experience and the platform providing the true end-to-end life cycle management. And with our Microsoft partnership, we've been helping many industry companies in this industry space. So we understand, what it takes to be different in terms of building a regulatory compliance system. For this group specifically, we are here because we want to contribute. If the EPI is going to work at scale, it needs implementers feeding real conversion data, edge cases back to the table, and that's what we are committing to. Thank you. Thank you. That's all.
Thanks, Palani. Great to have you on board. Looking forward to working with you further.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. It was really great information. And we look forward to working with you on future projects. So I'm going to pass it over to Devira. We're going to, these are the project updates piece of the meeting. So Devira will go through Fire to OMA.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for inviting us to the present again at the apps meeting. Couple of things we want to give you an update after our Connectathon, but also you can go back one slide or we can stay here. That's fine. Took a peek at the ballot. As you all know, that the ballot is open, and as of this morning, we have over 100 signups in the Fire to OMOP ballot. We are balloting at STU level. This is why we needed to have the Connectathon, and I just wanted to make an appeal to the Vulcan membership. Out of the 100 in the pool currently, we only about 10% are Vulcan members. What's notable is that there are very few from the Odyssey community that are a part of the ballot pool. And so if you or your constituents are using OMOP, we want to encourage you to join the ballot pool. We do have the opportunity to receive feedback via non-ballot tickets, and that's part of the implementation guide itself right now. But despite our outreach, we went to the Health Systems Working Group and did a presentation about the Connectathon and our results. And despite the really great feedback, which I'll share in just a minute from the Connectathon, we're just not seeing the Odyssey community here, and that's of a great deal of concern. So just wanted to give a little late update about the ballot and where we were, and obviously the ballot closes tomorrow. So thank you. Next slide, please. This is just a set of pictures of the folks that were involved in the Connectathon. We had an amazing turnout and we had some really good results. So here's our team. Next slide, please. And where I'm going to talk a little bit about the testing framework. Next slide. So what were we trying to achieve in the Connectathon? So first of all, Jean and the team did a great set of updates in the IG itself. The structure maps were filled out, and so these are executable objects that indicate how to do, your baseline Fire to OMOP transformation. So we wanted to give those a workout. But the other thing that we did is and I'll talk later a little bit about this, is that Chris Roeder provided what was essentially a reference implementation to support the testing suite. So what we did is we enabled different kinds of users to come to the Connectathon, whether you had a system or not, and use the test data that we prepared and execute the testing scenarios. So we wanted to also provide an opportunity to have two paths, either with or different paths. We had three different paths to do the same set of testing to see if the transformation approach that we have in the IG would produce the same results. So not only were we testing out the IG, we also developed a reference implementation via the testing tools, and we also wanted to provide multiple paths to provide validation. that the conformance statements that are now in the IG were relevant and solid, thus to giving the IG a workout. Next slide, please. These are the illustration of the three workflows and how they were different. First, we had the reference tooling that Chris provided. We also understood that the implementation guide was relevant for folks that came to the table with a transformation tool themselves. And there's two variants there. Either you had your own software stack in the workflow 2 or 3, and you use a terminology server, or maybe you had a terminology server that's a part of your software stack as well. So these are the three variants that we enabled as a part, structurally as a part of the Connectathon. Next slide, please. This is just a little more information, details about the reference tooling that Chris did. We went over this in detail in the Connectathon itself and with our Odyssey presentation that we did. And if we had more time today, I would ask Chris to give a little more information about this, but I know our time is short. I also want to point out that the reference tooling, the whole package. There's a GitHub that he created, and that is all available as a part of the IG, and it's going to be a persistent artifact and that lives beyond the IG. So all that information is available out there about the reference tooling, and so you can do this at home in your spare time. Next slide, please. Part of our process we had also is we had some tools to have folks sign up ahead of time to register for which workflow that they wanted to participate in. And this is an example of the report out of the reference out of the workflow 1 that went on, and this is part of the packaging that Chris put together. And at any rate, so it was just we got a lot of feedback about how, particularly people who were participants in the first workflow, about how much support they had, how much they appreciated the tooling and the kinds of things, the preparation of the sample data, etc. We got great feedback about that process, and this is an example of the results from one of our participants, who then invited us to come over to the health systems working group at Odyssey, and we chatted with those folks about the Connectathon and about our IG. Next slide, please. Okay, so I've already talked a little bit about the results. Next slide. We had 26 active participants. We had about twice that many actually sign up, so that 50% actually came and did hands-on and participated and gave us feedback, is, we think, pretty amazing. And we got, again, we got some overwhelming feedback about the preparation that we did and what a good experience this was for them, and in contrast to other hackathons and connectathons that those folks have participated in. So we were really gratified that all the hard work that we put in was fruitful. Next slide, please. Again, I talked about this before. Our notable achievements is not only did we capture some issues that are already out in our on our JIRA site for the pre-ballot issues, but we did get what we're able to successfully give the testing scenarios that we put together, a couple of different paths, a couple of different passes via the different workflows. So we were successful at accomplishing, all of that. And another important piece of feedback that we had from one of our participants is they really didn't know a lot about doing fire to OMOP ETL at all, and as a process of participating in our Connectathon, found that this was an experience that provided them a great way to learn about that. So this is actually at an U.S. academic site. And there was an individual that gave us that feedback that this was a good experience for them. So we accomplished all those things. Next slide, please. Here's some links. Obviously, the slides will be available, and those things are available after that will persist and be available to you in the future. That's it for me. Any questions or comments about our Connectathon, about the ballot, about the Fire to OMOP work? let's see. Regarding Odyssey, did you reach out to Craig Sanchon on the Odyssey MS Teams site? What we did is we posted to the forums a couple of times. We went to social media, and we also asking for ballot participation in both those places. And we also went and did, and we were the presentation at the Health Systems Working Group. That's what we did in terms of outreach to Odyssey. Any other questions or comments? And really quick, I see that John and Chris are both on the call. I don't know if there's any updates or anything you want to add to the comments I made. Okay,
Nope.
I guess we're done. Thank you. Oh, wait. Is that you, John?
That was just me saying no.
Oh, okay. Thanks for the airtime in this call. Please go out and please go up and sign up for the ballot. And if you are not an HL7 member or don't have the ability to sign up for the ballot as a non-member, please take a look at the ballot. You can provide us JIRA tickets, and that's under the there's a support tab in the IG itself, and you can provide us feedback that way.
Yeah, thank you, Devera and the team, for the hard work. I know it was a lot of work to get prepped to the for the event. Appreciate it. Also, I'd like to remind the community there won't be a Fire to Home Up call this Friday. It's been canceled, but we will be meeting in 2 weeks. That said, if you have any questions or like to reach out with anything, feel free to reach out to us. So that thanks, Devera. Next is Jeff. Jeff Lowe
Hi
with
there.
track summary and schedule of activity.
Absolutely. So if you can move on to the next slide, please. So in prior connectathons, we'd gone through the process of routing encounters effectively. So the idea being, so we're onto our second version of the IG. The first one was kind of very much a structural one in terms of we could define the encounters, we could define the activities, and then that was all good for a relatively simple protocol. For the next version of the IG, we wanted to add in sort of more tooling around more complex designs that exist in the study. So things like handling conditional activities, handling like untutored visits, handling all those transitions from treatment to end of study, all those sorts of activities. So in the previous connectathon, we went through and we did a lot of that. For this one, we wanted to focus on actually let's go one step lower in terms of rather than thinking about how we can schedule the encounters, let's get into the point where we can actually start scheduling the encounters and some of the activities therein. Now we've had this plan, which is shown very vaguely on the right here for quite some time, and we basically just wanted to kind of prove that out. We weren't quite so as successful for in terms of turnout. We had I think around 25 people signed up, but there was down to a very solid core towards the end. We managed to get quite a bit done, so that was pretty cool. So the activities we wanted to do is we wanted to be able to go through the process of using a FHIR-based system as the base. We wanted to be able to enroll a patient in a research study. We wanted to be able to plan and schedule and perform an encounter, follow through some of the workflow, and then be able to then at the end of that particular encounter plan the next one, same sort of thing. One of the things that came out as sort of a corollary from the ballot process was there were some comments, obviously, around the relationship of the FHIR SOA representation and the USDM representation of an SOA. So one of the things we wanted to do as part of this event was kind of look at whether there was some sort of mapping from a structured USDM representation of the activities within the study, and the same thing using FHIR resources. So we wanted to be able to cover that because we want to be able to feed that into the implementation guide. Next slide, please. So one of the things we discussed previously is there is a whole bunch of resources within the FHIR specification itself and some sort of implementation guides around like the clinical decision support and the structured data capture that we could have used actually within the frame of a FHIR server itself, but we want basically in our conversations, we sort of got to the point where it said it was going to be too complicated to do the types of activities that we do for a clinical study within the kind of the framing of the existing IGs. So we needed to do something different in terms of scheduling, performing the activities. So the first decision we took is we were going to actually take it out of the fire server itself. So we weren't going to rely on CDS to do the implementation. We'd have a separate application, which would then use the same sort of patterns that existed within the existing fire implementation guides, but again, initiated and managed by our own application. The actual data store itself, so all the resources that were created will be all on the fire server. And we use the clinical procedure guidance, implementation guide to kind of define that in terms of thinking about how activities could be scheduled so they would be sort of allegedly cognizant to how processes happen within a healthcare system itself. So we could kind of lever any of the sort of the existing tooling within the EMR system that we could then use to kind of integrate, make kind of a patient's participation in a study through the lens of the EMR be just like any other sort of activity within the EMR. So be able to reuse the any sort of the tooling that's around it, like patient calendars, like. So again, we wanted to kind of reproduce that. Okay, move on to the next slide, please. So the first thing we needed to be able to do is we needed to be able to register a patient. So we built this Smart on Fire application that would then talk to the underlying fire server and get a list of all the studies that were available. And then the study manager could select the study and then go through the process of actually enrolling a patient. So the idea was we had effectively a lookup for all the patients that were on the fire server itself. So that could be obviously filtered through things like the eligibility criteria. If there was a way of, or there is a way to do that, we didn't need to go down to that level of sophistication, but the idea would be that that patient list could be filtered based on eligibility criteria, as an example. We want to then be able to assign a subject identifier to them. So you'd have that continuity between your research system and the healthcare system. Both of those identifiers would exist the same. And then you can go into the process of actually adding a patient on. And we also added into this, was the ability to do things like updating the research subject milestones and statuses. The way it's done in R6 is a lot more complicated than the way it was done in R4. So there's been a lot of changes around that. So we had some sort of capability around that, but it wasn't particularly well developed. We did discuss about ways where you could have activities which would automatically transition from one status to the next, but we didn't go too deep on it. Next slide, please. Then once we got basically a patient enrolled, we wanted to be able to then do the workflow. So you can kind of see the whole procedure where something, an activity can be proposed, planned, ordered, scheduled, booked, performed, and then completed. One of the things we wanted to be able to do was try and reuse as much as possible artifices or resources within the fire server that would allow kind of the capabilities like the Epic's My Chart calendar, for example, could show all your research activities to you. And you can see in this particular example here, when we've scheduled an activity or an encounter, basically there would be an appointment resource which goes out both to the patient and actually to the site as well. One of the cases we talked about is in the past for certain sets of activities, you may actually need to also route that to something like an MRI machine, as you might need the MRI machine to also respond to that appointment request. But the whole idea is you can't actually move on from like an encounter being scheduled to actually be booked and performed without both stakeholders, the patients and the site signing on. And then you can see at each of these options, we always have the ability to kind of jump out in terms of we've completed a visit. Either we go to the next visit or we go to early termination, based on the sort of following the workflow that you might imagine. Next slide, please. And then when it came to actually looking at within an encounter, so for each of the activities within the SOA, we created those as activity definitions within the fire resource itself. So each of these things correspond back to a biomedical concept from the USDM. So I've got to type it there. The study we used for this example was the CEDAS pilot study, which is one of the sample USDM files that have been provided. We transformed that into basically the fire schedule of activities, and also transformed at the same time all the biomedical concepts activities themselves, and made them available. So you can see just at one level on the left-hand side where you can actually go through and dispense medication, doing randomization, those sorts of things. But then on the next side, we can actually go slightly deeper. So for example, when there's a panel associated, we can actually bind like the hematology activity into a panel and then kind of roll all that stuff up. So you don't actually necessarily have to go through and check off all the activities. So at the moment there, it's done in a very much a checklist way. So the idea could be that this could be an app on a like a site coordinator's phone, and as they go through and do these things, they check them off, because behind the scenes, it's actually marking like it sets up tasks, and they can mark those tasks as done. So you could actually see step by step the activities that are happening at the site. But in terms of actually like proving the stuff out, it was a bit of a pain in the butt. So we just have like a button to say that the whole thing was done, and it gets all checked off. Next slide. And we can see, like, again, based on the resources themselves, we can see all these activities that have occurred based on like the intent to do something, doing something, or finishing it off, and then saying that like having like kind of a workflow that you can kind of see. So this would give you sort of procedure level observation of a particular the activities of the site, all integrated with the healthcare system itself. So again, you wouldn't need to kind of have a second system to do this, because all it's doing is it's just recreating the stuff behind the scenes. It does look overly complicated, but I think there's also merit to it in terms of, if you were to think about one of the use cases for the SOA is the ability to provide like invoicing support. In terms of the moment it would be done, you would do some work, you would enter your data into the EDC system, that would go through your CTMS system. They would then see that the activity was done, and there'd be all sorts of invoicing based on this. Whereas looking at the healthcare system, you could generate basically an invoice on all the activities that were done, because each of these resources is a representation of a unit of work by somebody at the site. And it does actually, like I said, it looks very complicated, but it does mean that you can do things like setting triggers on different resources to do other things based on that. So if we go to the next slide. So an example was one of the participants in the project also used these triggers to effectively subscribe to different types of activities. So whenever an encounter was finished, they would get an event notification. And so they did the implementation where not only did they get a record of what was left to do, but they also got a message back to say that a visit was done, and then you could pop up on their little app, on their little like device, to say what the next visit was. And you can do the same sort of thing in terms of looking at the activities. You could go through and just check these things off, which is pretty cool, I thought. Next slide. And then we're very lucky to have, obviously, the contribution of Nursey and the synergist, who went through and basically used the IG as we defined it to an implementation within their system, which was kind of mapped across to exactly the same plans. The idea is like the best way to know that an implementation guide works is to actually see people using it. And so this was very gratifying to see Nursey contribute this. Next slide. So we're able to like reproduce a clinical trials workflow, again, through the proxy of an app sitting on top of the EMR system, but it was using the same sort of archetypes under the hood that, for example, any sort of tracking system and an EMR system could track. So you could build reporting based on using the same sort of methodology that you'd use for like healthcare tracking and the like. We were able to do a pretty good mapping between the USTM structured representation and the fire representation, and get pretty good fidelity there. I'm not saying it was like a push button exercise, but there was like, we had to parameterize some of it, but we have basically a map to a degree that's going to focus, that's going to be as part of the IG. Obviously, it's not going to be the whole part, because the sort of the broader protocol document is going to be part of the UDP. We were just going to focus on the SOA. We're continuing to seek implementers and implementations. We've met with UDP just to show like what we did and what we're talking about, and then We've got approval effectively to publish the IG, and I think we're going to do that as a snapshot because of the. I'm sure that Filippo is going to talk about that in a minute, but we will be publishing the IG as a snapshot in the not too distant future. Thank you very much. Any questions? Let's go.
Good. Thank you, Jeff, for another successful Connectathon. Also, kudos to you for that app you built. Those screenshots we had were an AI generated. That's an app that Jeff created, which makes a lot of sense to me. Instead of running commands, now you can see the events on the screen. It shows you the status on the top. It was very useful as an end user to see that. Appreciate it. And also thanks again to Andy and Patrick for Pharma for being with us, helping us with the workflow. Test it and validate it, through these many hours. Excellent work. Oh, very good. I'm next. So those are the projects updates for this month. I'll try to be quick since we have. Oh, sorry. So first is Apex. The one important update is that we've changed the meetings from Thursday afternoons to Friday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. The objective was to accommodate representatives from Europe that couldn't attend the Thursday late evening sessions. So again, we're meeting on Fridays at 9 a.m. I hope you can join us. The project team is still working very actively on the transactions for both backend and application layers. So we're not just building these workflows for the backend on how many statuses you're going to have, what's happening next, but we also taking the application layer in perspective. Basically, how would it work with a real app, and also trying to create these boundaries about what should go into the IG, what should be specified in the IG, and what should be left to the vendors, when they design these apps. We're trying to be as flexible as possible, and that's what it's also important for you to join those calls. We love to hear your feedback as we design this. And as a reminder, this track will be featured in the September Connectathon in Maryland. So I hope you can join us there. Fire to OMAP, you just heard some good updates from Tavira on the process of the virtual Connectathon we had in July. In addition to that, the IG has been approved to participate in the ballot cycle, as you've heard. The ballot cycle opens soon. Tomorrow it's the last day to be able to enroll. We do have kind of two ways for you to be able to give us feedback. One way is through the official channels if you are signed up for the ballot. The other way is for you to submit a ticket without being without having signed up to the ballot. So we have both solutions available. We'll circulate those documentation so you know how to be able to get in touch with the team and give your feedback. Also, during the Maryland working group, we're hoping to do kind of a preliminary ballot ticket review with BRNR. This is still to be determined. We currently hoping to do that on Monday, Q3, if possible. On Phenomics Exchange, we expect these positions to be implemented on the IG either this month or next month at the most. The final content, of course, needs to be approved by CIC, which is the sponsoring working group for the IG. And the latest is that we're having discussions with NHS England for potential new use cases. And hopefully at the next meeting, we'll be able to review some of their documentation. On schedule of activity, as you heard from Jeff, we had another successful Connectathon in July. The team has now moved the project meetings from weekly to monthly. We're meeting on, and sorry, this is a partial note here. It's the first Wednesday of each month. The information is on our website if you'd like to join us. Also, we've completed the ballot reconciliations of the tickets that we had from May. And at the moment, we're waiting for Jeff to just entered the last updates about the USDM and the changelog in the AG. And after that, we'll follow with a publishing request. Real quick, the lesson learned there is that you cannot publish your AG against a file release that hasn't not been published yet. So FMG has instructed us to take a snapshot of our AG and publish that snapshot against the file release 6 build. And we are actually looking at version 3, build 3 of that release. So we'll be publishing against that. It will need to go through BRNR, which is the sponsoring work group, then FMG, and finally TSC. And then after release 6 is published, hopefully next year, we'll be republishing again. UDP. The team is still working on reconciling their May ballot tickets. We met with some of the people who submitted their feedback. There was a lot of feedback from our colleagues from Japan, and which is having the team do a lot of extensive work on the mapping and conformance to M11 specs. But we feel to be on track. In order to kind of validate these changes, the team is looking to do another virtual Connectathon. We're aiming for the first week in October. It's going to be October 5th to 8th. So it starts on the 5th, which is a Monday. The last day is the 8th, which is a Thursday. What's unique about this Connectathon is we are trying to make it easier for people to join. That's why we made it into 4 days, but shorter time. So we plan to have 3-hour sessions for each day, and we'll be tailoring those times depending on participants' availability. So we'll have, I'm sure, very early times for our colleagues in Japan, and later afternoon times for our colleagues here in the US or West Coast. We're also exploring a new use case test scenario between UDP and ABEX. We're still reviewing the scenario, and once we have more details, we'll share the date with you. And next, the UDP monthly community meeting is coming up. As a reminder, is August 26th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Now, this is about EPI, or electronic product information. This will also be featured in our September Connectathon in Rockville, Maryland. Now I have a lot of technical updates here. I know Craig is part of the call, so feel free to chime in. But basically, the team is working on a list of IG changes, and the objective is to simplify the implementation and basically remove any questioning, any ambiguity, or kind of improve on the feedback that we were given earlier during the last ballot, and trying to make it more easier to implement and from end users. In order to do that, there is also I have a list of 5 features here that we're working on. I know we are standardizing the presentation in XML. We also have a defined approach for dosing regimens, patient populations, and characteristics. We also work on clarifying the package product definition for the modeling of the drug product packaging. There's been a lot of discussion on that. We still have a lot of ongoing discussions on the substance definitions and ingredient resources for the managing of the product composition. The team is actively meeting on Thursdays early morning, and the information on how to join that call are also available on our website. And in fact, before we move to the next topic, as a reminder, if you go to hl7vulcan.org, feel free to click under projects, select any of our projects, and you'll see the next available meeting for that project. And you can also click on the subscription to the listserv to be forward meeting invites and be up to date on the project, latest information. And this is the last for projects. I know we only have 8 minutes, but Miriam, we have the project roadmap ideas.
Yeah, thanks, Filippo. Can you just go to the next slide? So this is an open discussion with all of you on the call. What we're interested in getting from you all are answers to these questions or any additional feedback that you have in terms of what you want to see in 2027. So you can see those 3 questions that we have here. If you have any answers, I can go through one by one, but you can also, in case we run out of time, you can email us any suggestions at that the Vulcan email. So the first one is, what new projects or initiatives should Vulcan prioritize in 2027? If anyone has any ideas. And I see Devira has her hand up.
Something that came up in our working group calls and also at the Connect-a-thon is there is an interest from our community in developing a follow-on to the Fire to OMOP base implementation guide that covers the international patient summary. So in other words, international patient summary as an input and OMOP as an output. So just wanted to float that idea past this group and see if there's any reactions or, to that as a potential kind of more specified data source for fire to OMOP transformations.
Craig, I see your hand up. Thanks, Devira.
Yeah, something to consider, maybe an implementation dashboard and a common way of tracking implementation success across the projects. So, for example, you hear in business the total addressable market as an example, and I'm wondering, is there something equivalent or something akin to that that could be applied to implementation guides? So if I look at, let's say, EPI, and I say, what is the maximum implementation base that I could have for EPI? And that would be if every regulator in the world implemented EPI. And then I could track my progress of that and say, I'm at X% of the total. So I throw that out there as maybe one potential example, but I would just love to hear what the group thinks in terms of how do we measure implementation across these implementation guides as one potential measure of success.
Yeah, that's great. I think too, on that point, potentially we have maybe Vulcan specific, like from the leadership side of what we think each project should look at, and then ask the project team leads and groups what you guys think would be additional to that, so we can have some consistency, but there may be other things that are project specific that may be more that you guys can provide us with as well. So I see, and sorry, the name is showing up as Buck TB.
Yep, it's Bev. How are you?
Oh, Bev.
That's right. Yeah, one of the things that we're facing quite a bit is, there's been a lot of work with genomics, codecs, and it really ties into a lot of the work that we've been doing more around clinical genomics. And I think there's some very specific use cases, and happy to provide them on, how we can start to kind of stitch that patient journey together, more specifically to be able to find mutations, within structured data, and not only mutations, but that coupled with a biomarker. And I think that will inform and tie in nicely with some of the EPI work and some other areas. But that's one that keeps coming up over and over, especially in the oncology spaces.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you. Nursey, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, and yeah, all of these ideas are great, and great, Beverly. Actually, yeah, it's a very good one you just mentioned. With all the projects that come, I think we should also think about, okay, who's gonna stay with it, and I don't mean just the people who are interested in developing, but also in terms of if there's funding involved, but also who's going to implement it. Maybe we identify that up front, so there's a couple of people already lined up. So that we don't end up in a situation where we work a couple of years and then we don't know what to do with it. So I would just say, okay, let's think about the project, but also think about it from a perspective of practicality as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. Any other, I see Mike had two. Did you want to talk to those, Mike, or just have us track it and we?
Yeah, I mean, how do we build off of existing fire IGs, right? And keep building the entire roadmap, especially if they're related in some fashion or another. I mean, protocol to SAP to, and keep going, right? CSR, etc. The other one is around how, as more fire IGs come to fruition, and obviously I'll keep version control out of it. How do we actually provide these, I'm going to call them engineering starting kits that allow people to understand how they can be integrated to achieve common objectives if there are one or more fire IGs trying to achieve different parts of a bigger objective?
Awesome. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. I don't know if we'll get to very far, but what community needs are not being addressed by our current work? And then, also think about, are there emerging interoperability challenges or fire use cases that we should tackle? I think some of the new projects may be taking that into account. I do see Craig's hand up.
Yeah, regarding community needs, maybe there's an opportunity for Vulcan to reach out as an organization to engage regulators. Because right now, there's engagement with regulators at the project level. So I have discussions with them for EPI and Apex. I'm sure there's discussions going on for M11 or UDP rather, and so on. But I think there may be an opportunity here for us to engage with the regulators at a strategic level to say, let's look at the entire R&D picture and like step back and look at R&D overall and say, here are all the things that we need to transition over to fire to gain maximum benefit. So it's not just the protocol, it's the IB, it's the other, it's the clinical trial application.
CMC.
It's not just, yeah, exactly. It's not just labeling it CMC, it's adverse events, it's the whole thing. So if we could get them to agree with us and say, here is a strategy and here's a roadmap, and all of these projects that we're working on are just pieces of a larger strategy to get the whole thing, the whole R&D lifecycle moved over.
Yeah, and I think that may also touch on what Nursey was saying as far as, who then owns it or is a champion of it or can keep this going forward. If we get the regulators involved early on, then it's things that are relevant to them and they naturally sort of keep being important and relevant. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank you all. Again, if you have any additional ideas or suggestions, please email us, let us know. And with that, we'll leave this here for a little bit to get more involved, to contact us, get any project updates on our website. And I will thank you all for joining, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk again soon.